Hey, welcome to week 3 of the Mount Silver Draft League. This is Scribbles, coach of the Colorado Cobalions. Last week we got a big win, moving us to 1-1, and this week we're up against BigSchoen and the Tennessee Red Gyarados, who are also 1-1. So kind of an important pivotal match in terms of one person leaps up into the playoffs, the other person kind of falls down to the outside looking in. There's been some changes to BigSchoen's team. I've kind of overwritten these here on the team list next to me. I think I'm obviously post-comming at this point. I think I'm going to move to this in general. I think it gives me a little bit more opportunity to focus when I'm in battle, and then it also gives me I can provide better commentary when I'm not having to do stream of conscious kind of narration. And this battle was about an hour, and it starts to get so long it's not really feasible to just stream and do commentary at the same time. So I think I'll be moving to post-com in general. But anyway, moving on to this week in particular, BigSchoen's team, it doesn't have, I guess my team building process here was somewhat strained because, and for the weirdest reason, so BigSchoen's team, I wouldn't say that it has a great defensive core. It has good defensive mons, Blissey, Latias, Rotom Wash, but they don't form a great core in general. So that made team building easy in some respects, but hard in others, at least for me personally. I had trouble identifying a win condition. I didn't know what I wanted to go with. We'll get into who I ended up selecting and why, but it was a bit difficult. And the nature of the Red Gyarados team is such that it's very offensive. So it may not have a defensive core, but it has a lot of very potent offensive options. And so I had to balance not being able to select a perfect sweeper against his team or a perfect win condition with not being able to essentially defend myself against all the offensive threats that were available. So we're going to get into the individual sets, and we'll kind of keep this in mind as we're going through that. I was thinking what works offensively and defensively, where offensively seemed pretty easy, but it didn't work when I also had to consider the defensive threats that faced me, or the defensive responsibilities that I needed to have. So leading off, we've got Zapped in America here, the Zeraora. I went with a Choice Scarf set. Seems weird, probably the fastest Pokemon on either team, and I went with Choice Scarf. And the reason for this was that I was afraid of two things. One was Choice Scarf Greninja. I think it had a really good matchup against my team, specifically against Zeraora in itself, and then just in general. That wasn't the main reason. The main reason I wanted for this set was actually Choice Scarf Kartana, well, for one, because it's a threat to my team, and also Choice Scarf Latias, who I think would be a good bring for my opponent to kind of counter my own Mega Latias. Now, depending on investment, Mega Latias can survive, and we'll get to that, but it seemed like there was a lot of good options for very fast Choice Scarfers, and it's really easy to keep Zeraora's Choice Scarf kind of hidden. It's naturally faster than a lot of things, so the only way you really divulge that information is if you're against an opposing Choice Scarfer. And the two that I was worried about, I felt pretty confident that I could either deal a lot of damage to him if I was positioned well, or I could pivot out in such a way that, information would be preserved. So the set here, knock off Close Combat, Plasma Fist gives me pretty good coverage against everything. Close Combat allows me to hit Blissey, who is a pretty decent wall to what I ended up selecting as my sweeper. It also gives me a good hit against Mega Gyarados. I can kind of take a more neutral attack with Close Combat that hits Jirachi for neutral. It hits pretty much the whole team for neutral or super effective damage, the one exception being Latias, which is why I had the knockoff coverage. Plasma Fist was just strong coverage for once, specific switch-ins were eliminated, most notably Rotom Wash. Rotom Wash with a defensive set. Well, I guess there weren't, Plasma Fist had really good neutral coverage. Kartana resists, and Zeraora is not designed to take on Kartana. And then Volt Switch, just to preserve momentum, also kind of preserve information, not reveal the Choice Scarf, barring my opponent being Choice Scarfed, which I figured I'd be able to figure out just based on how the opponent played. So speed's enough to outspeed max speed, timid Greninja, Choice Scarf. Max attack investment and then just some token dumped into special defense to help survive, you know, whatever attacks I might take from, you know, either Greninja or possibly a Rotom, something along those lines. Nothing too complex there. So this is what I ended up going with for kind of my win condition. It's a pretty odd set, so we can kind of go through it individually. So Shift Gear seemed like a good win condition. It would outspeed a lot of things on my opponent's team. It missed out on a few speed levels. That's another reason why actually Zeraora was Scarfed. Scarf could outspeed +1 Gyarados. If I was max speed, it could actually outspeed +2 Gyarados as well. No. I don't remember. It might have been for that as well. This speed investment here is for outspeeding, again, Timid Greninja after Shift Gear. The HP and defense investment is... It guarantees that Hawlucha's high jump kick activates Papa Berry from full, but won't KO. So it's a pretty specific set. This is both my late game win condition, and it's also my answer to seed Hawlucha, basically. So the idea was, against Hawlucha, I could either, you know, I could switch in, kill it with Thunderbolt, probably Calm Mind first, and then kill it with Thunderbolt. And then whatever would switch in wouldn't be able to kill me likely, and I could get a Shift Gear off, and then, you know, presumably sweep the team from there. Thunderbolt gives me really good coverage against most of the team. Blur Cannon is just kind of the nuke to, you know, maybe take out a Pokemon that's just a little too bulky for Thunderbolt to take down. Other things that I considered for Magearna that possibly would have been better, I considered a Pain Split set to help deal with Blissey, because you can see this set's pretty walled by Blissey in general. Ultimately decided against it because it seemed unreliable. I didn't know if I would ever have the speed to get the Pain Split off, or if I would be in position for it, so I just stuck with Shift Gear, Calm Mind, Blur Cannon, Thunderbolt. It gave me really good coverage overall. Next set here is my Kinkeldurr. This is a secondary check to Mega Gyarados, which Scarf Zeraora is a check to. Magearna also works pretty well as a check to Mega Gyarados, just because of its bulk, generally. The set Mach Punch, Drain Punch, Facade, Fire Punch, so this gave me pretty good coverage against most of his entire team. I felt that Drain Punch was necessary against Blissey to get off that extra damage. I considered Thunder Punch for like a Gyarados switch in, but it didn't seem that useful. It seemed a little bit niche to me, and Facade was really good neutral coverage regardless. Fire Punch was for Jirachi, Kartana. It's not really that useful for Kartana, but it does a bit more. Alright, 1.5 for Drain Punch for stab, and then super effective, so 225 base power. Fire Punch 4 times 300, yeah, so Fire Punch does more damage to Kartana. Doesn't matter, Kartana dies anyway, but mostly it was for Jirachi. I could have run Knockoff, but Knockoff, you know, runs into the risk of getting locked into that against a Pokemon that, you know, is just going to laugh in your face. Max HP, max attack, defense. I think this is a fairly standard set. Flame Orb, Guts, nothing too complex here. Next Pokemon is Mega Latias. Considered a defog set for a while here. Ended up just going 3 attacks for cover. Dragon Pulse did good damage to Latias, does good neutral damage across the board. Thunderbolt, again, gives me good coverage against all of his waters on the team. And then Hidden Power Fire is for Kartana or Jirachi, basically. Just a really simple 3 attack. Max HP, max speed. Max speed felt necessary. Outspeeds Kartana by 1 point. Also, speed ties Latias in the event that it's not running Scarf or anything, so it seemed important. Because I didn't run Defog, this is the week I decided to bring Serena, and I bought a really odd set. So I didn't have a Z, and I wasn't going to fit it anywhere. And this is something of a problem I've noticed with the team, is that I don't have a lot of Mons that run Z moves very well. And it's mostly because Magearna can't run a Z move. Like, I would have run Z Magearna probably 2 times this season if I could have run a Z move, so, you know, 2 out of 3. Zera can run Z moves. I ran Zera Z both the first 2 weeks. Sarah's obviously very good at running Z moves. So this week I didn't have one. I wanted rapid spin support. I figured the most logical switch in to Serena in pretty much every circumstance would be Bulu. I played around with a Fairy MZ, play rough set. I played around with like Grassy MZ to kill through Intimidate, things like that. None of it really seemed good. Fighting MZ seemed good for Chansey, but I had Zero Aura, I had Conkeldurr, I had options. So I went with Fly Z Bounce. I was hoping that this would be a good way to just basically catch Bulu on the switch in. The rest of the moves, Power Whip, is really good coverage against his water types, Rapid Spin to clear hazards, and then U-turn for momentum. The investment here, a lot of bulk. I think this was mostly to help out with, I think this might have actually survived a Howlucha Acrobatics. No item, but not boosted, and then could also kill with Fly Z. So if I got stuck in against Bulu for whatever reason, something along those lines, I had position. The speed outspeeds no speed or 4 EV Rotom, I'm pretty sure is what I was doing here. So it's a decent set. It felt like this was the best chance I was going to have to bring Serena this season. It had a really good matchup, and if it's not useful this week, it probably gets dropped, to be perfectly honest. I mean, as much as I like rapid spin support, it just doesn't have good matchups with a lot of other teams in the league. Last Pokemon on the team is Ho-Oh. The Ho-Oh set here, 288 speed. What was that for? I believe that was for max speed Rotom, maybe for max speed Gyarados. I'd have to check. It's one of those two. So the post-com makes it a little hard to remember what the sets were doing. Max HP just for survivability and get kind of the most out of Regenerator and Roost whenever I get to use them. Charty Berry, because a lot of his Pokemon have coverage for rock moves. You could even envision like a hidden power rock Latios or something crazy like that. So I figured I'd get some use out of that. Ho-Oh gives me a good way of hitting Jirachi. It also gives me a good way of hitting, pretty much walling Kartana. Howlucha doesn't have a very easy time getting through me if it doesn't carry Stone Edge. And I could easily kill with, Brave Bird at that point. So it gives me a lot of options. Toxic was mostly because Rotom seemed like the basically optimal switch in to Ho-Oh. So if I ever got Ho-Oh in position, it seemed like Rotom was going to come out basically every single time. And having Toxic available to basically catch that on the switch in and get it statused so it wasn't going to be able to come back up seemed really, really important. So that's the team. From here, I'm going to jump into the battle. Just going to go ahead and, like I said, it's a post-com, so we'll just be doing the replay. So I guess I'll see you then. Oh, should switch sides here. He did not bring the team that I expected. So always in my battles, the top right up there is the team I expect my opponent to bring. It's basically, it's not necessarily what I team build around. I obviously team build around their team, not who I expect to bring. I don't pick 6 mons and then build against that. But every week I have what I expect them to bring, and that's basically it up there. So some key differences. Howlucha didn't come. I have prep for Howlucha. The fortunate thing is that a lot of his threatening mons, including Kartana and Gyarados, are physically based, so prepping for Howlucha preps decently well for the other ones. Also, did not bring Bulu, brought Jirachi instead. So, things like Fly Z on Serena are completely useless at that point. Looking at the initial matchups, the thing that made the most sense for me to lead was, like, again, post-com makes it interesting. So my thought process on my lead here is I think he might bring Scarf Gren, so I'm going to lead Zera. Worst case scenario, Volt Switch is free against his entire team. I can pivot out. I have options to pivot into. I imagine Rotom Wash was probably what he was going to lead, and I thought through that game plan, and I was concerned about Thunder Wave, but I kind of thought there's like 0% chance I go for Thunder Wave with Zera Aura right in front of them. So that was kind of like my initial thought. I'm going to lead Zera, maybe catch a Scarf Gren, who's going to go for like spikes or something like that against Zera Aura, and just take that out turn 1, which would have been really useful. But any of the other mons he leads, I can Volt Switch out and gain positioning. So that turn goes basically how I thought it would. So I have Zera in against Rotom Wash. So here I'm Volt Switching 100% of the time. There's not really any other play. So I'm concerned about status from Rotom, obviously, and I don't want to get paralyzed on any of my Mons, to be perfectly honest. So if they make a ballsy play and go for like a Thunder Wave, I'd be in a bad spot. So scouting Big going into this week, he seemed to make solid plays. I didn't see a lot of like super hyper aggro plays, so I would be very, very surprised to see Thunder Wave, but I don't really want to risk it. So the Pokemon that cares least about a burn is Latias. So that was my pivot. I also didn't want to take a lot of damage on Magearna or any of my other Pokemon really, if they ended up going for a Hydro Pump or something along those lines, or even a Toxic. So I guess Toxic was a risk here, but maybe Magearna was a better play in hindsight. But I went out to the Pokemon that I thought had the least risk here, which was Latias, and they end up firing off a Will-O-Wisp. So this turn, I kind of want to just keep Rotom low. Dragon Pulse hits everything for some damage. It doesn't hit, Jirachi or Kartana for very much at all. So I'm pretty sure I just fire off a Dragon Pulse here. Yeah, so get some good damage there. The roll's really important. So 43, I know next time is the potential that roll in my favor kills. I also saw leftovers on Rotom. So I think that the roll that was a low roll, if I'm remembering the battle right. And so I'm in range of getting a KO next turn, or essentially preventing it from coming in on Latias. So that makes for kind of an awkward series of plays coming up. So Volt Switch out, it's in range of Dragon Pulse, brings in Greninja. So here I know I don't really die to anything. Can't run Z. U-turn does like 50%. Dark Pulse. Dark Pulse flinch is annoying. I think that was my main concern in this particular circumstance. So I stay in predicting basically the U-turn. Dark Pulse flinch might have been annoying, but it wasn't the end of the world. And I thought if I could just get off damage in this case, maybe break through on a flinch. It does upwards of 90% to Greninja, and then Greninja dies to anything. I don't have to even predict with Zeraora anymore in terms of trying to catch a Greninja switching in on a Zeraora for whatever reason. So I just fire off a T-Bolt. Jirachi comes in. It's probably the safest play for my opponent. At this point, we're kind of in this awkward position. Jirachi's revealed his leftovers as well. I recover to get HP back. Gets up Stealth Rock, so kind of a neutral turn there. Stealth Rock are bad for me, but I have removal in Serena, and Serena seems that has a fairly decent time getting the hazards off. There's threats of Ice Fang and Ice Beam, even something like I guess like a Fire Punch from a Jirachi or something, but I'm pretty bulky, so I feel like I'll have a decent time getting rocks off. At this point, I'm just trying to damage the Jirachi. I don't want to reveal HP Fire here because it's not going to do that much, and then my opponent's going to be aware of it, essentially. So I'm just going for Thunderbolt. Once I see the Wish, this kind of changes things. So I don't want him to Wish into Rotom. I figured the Rotom is some sort of 50% berry, so I'm not going to allow that Wish to happen, basically. So I just fire off Dragon Pulse. We get kind of caught in this cycle for a little bit. I can't be paralyzed. I have Recover. Anytime I see a Wish up, I'm basically preventing Jirachi from passing it to Rotom. So I'm firing off a Dragon Pulse. The double Wish is interesting, but it fails. I think Shoen realized that there. So I'm saying that I'm not sure how the interaction works at the end of the day, because I think I get PP stalled eventually in that switch there. So I think Shoen just pivots out because it wasn't gonna get him anywhere, and I was basically gonna stay at 100% health, more or less. So Greninja comes in again. At this point, I think, let's see. So it has to switch into a Dark Pulse, but it gets Wish, so it's not a big deal. Or switch into a Dragon Pulse. So here I switch out in the Conk. Now, this play wasn't the best play. in hindsight. So I think I did a summary in the channel about, in the Discord, about some of my thought processes behind each play. So in this play, I figured U-turn Dark Pulse was coming out. And so if I could get Conk in on either move, I'm going to resist it. Protean will stay either Bug, but it'll switch out, or Dark. And Dark will still be weak to my Mach Punch, so I'll force him out, more or less. And getting Conk in and being able to launch off an attack is huge here. I also get to activate my Flame Orb safely. There's no, no risk of, alternative status coming out, which would be potentially annoying. So I switch in Conk here to basically just get him in and do some damage. My opponent goes for Ice Beam though. So this does more damage than I would like, basically. Fortunately, he's still ice, so he's still weak to Mach Punch, but I really shouldn't have taken that much damage on Conk. I should have waited to get Conk in safely. I think that'll hurt me pretty badly upcoming here. So at this point, I make a prediction that he's not going to stay in and sack Greninja to Mach Punch. So I go ahead and go for the Facade, which I know does a ton to anybody coming in, even after Intimidate. So Facade, 74% on Gyarados. I take a little burn damage. This turn is another crucial turn. My thought process here is I want Gyarados dead. It's still above 25%. It can still sub. It can still do some nasty things to me that I'd rather not deal with. And I want it dead. And so the way that I guarantee that it dies, to some degree, is with a Mach Punch here, which seems a little weird. And this could be, I'm assuming this is a huge misplay. If it Mega Evolves, it can kill me with Earthquake or Waterfall, I believe. If it stays regular, it doesn't kill me with either. So the only play that keeps Gyarados, to ensure that Gyarados dies, is Mach Punch. If it Mega Evolves, it outspeeds me, it can kill me anyway. So Mach Punch here, I'm guaranteed to live this turn, and I'm guaranteed to essentially kill Gyarados if it goes for the kill. So I assumed he'd Mega and go for the kill. I end up being wrong, and I Mach. I knew it was a 2-hit KO, any Earthquakes. So now I'm at a low enough health that I die to rocks, I die to anything at this point. So this turn's not as crucial, because Conk's dead. I don't have a good way of getting damage off with Conk after this. Conk's gonna die. I don't have any Wish Passing or any way to heal it, unfortunately. And rocks are up at the moment. I could maybe remove rocks and get them in on a sack or something, but it's still really difficult. So here I went back and forth for a while on Mach Punch or Facade. My thought process was that he wouldn't want to save Amon this low on HP. It can't substitute anymore. Zeraora outspeeds. I have a lot of options to deal with it. So I assumed that my opponent would just sack Gyarados here. And I was willing to trade Conk for Gyarados at this point. I was really worried about Gyarados overall. And, removing Gyarados, I was like, okay, well, Conk did its job. It got rid of, a huge opposing threat. I didn't have to use any of my other resources for it. I didn't have to burn a bunch of HP on Lottie. I didn't have to burn any HP on Magearna. It seems like it's pretty good. So I was willing to make that trade. Facade was tempting because I could see someone saving Gyarados, mostly just for Intimidate. But I ended up going for Mach Punch, and my opponent switches into Latias. So Facade is like a 67% roll to kill Latias, even after Intimidate, which is, it's a lot of damage. So I lose out on a lot of damage there. I go straight into Serena. I knew U-turn would put Latias in range of pretty much any of my other Pokemon at this point. So I ended up going for that. I could have cleared rocks here, but I felt like Jirachi got him back up fairly easily. I didn't have a lot to immediately threaten Jirachi aside from Ho-Oh. Everything else kind of does it in a slow way. So I ended up U-turning here. My opponent has Ice Beam, which does a huge chunk of damage. So Ice Beam hits my team decently. I suppose with Latias, Dragon coverage, Thunderbolt to hit Suicune also hits Ho-Oh. I guess if it's just 3 attacks, then ice coverage is good. It hits Crobat and Serena. So yeah, ice coverage is good there. So here I go into Zeraora, which, you know, if he's Scarf, I think it's a fine play. I didn't have another great switch in with rocks being up. I go into Zeraora and I look at the calc and I don't kill with Plasma Fists. The only thing that kills is knockoff here. And so I'm put in another tough spot. So up to this point, I haven't revealed that I'm Scarf, unless his Rotom was Scarfed and went first, but it's not, because it, you know, switched up moves. So my opponent doesn't know I'm Scarfed. Knockoff kills. Knockoff also, you know, clears an item from whatever else my opponent has. Gyarados doesn't switch into knockoff, it dies as well. So I could have gone for Volt Switch. Volt Switch is a better play. This turn took a long time for both of us to think through too. I ended up going for knockoff just kind of for the safe neutral coverage. BigSchoen makes a great play, sacks Gyarados, gets an Intimidate off. So that's fine. Nothing into the world has happened so far. Here, I'm in a really tough spot. This is a turn that I don't know if I would make a different play in any circumstance here. So it's not like, I don't think it's a great play, but it's only because I'm in a bad position. At this point, I assumed Kartana was Scarf. And basically, Scarf seemed like the worst case scenario. If it was anything other than Scarf, I had Latias to come in and HP Fire, knock it out 100% of the time. I would outspeed. I knew I outsped any Kartana set. I actually lived anything except like Giga Impact. Well, any Z move, I should say. So any like neutral hit, I lived. Just because Zeraora has a funny way of being able to survive neutral hits from basically anything. It has like just enough bulk. So fearing the Choice Scarf or potential Akaberry, I suppose, or Focus Sash or anything like that, I decided to stay in and knock off. And so the reason I did that is I could see a scenario where Choice Scarf can sweep me late game. I guess Magearna is a really good wall to that, but I don't have a great way of hitting Kartana, and I have to keep Magearna healthy. So maybe it is a misplay. A hard switch here feels difficult. I don't want to lose my berry on Magearna. I didn't want to switch anything into a knockoff. So I guess I stayed in a knocked off, and when no item came off, I was like, oh, okay, we're golden. He's Z, he's not Scarf. I've got Latias to 100% revenge no matter what this guy's set is. And so I go for the single knockoff, and then from here, I'm like, all right, well, I don't want to sack my Zeraora. I'll just sack Serena. And I go out to Serena. He Swords Dances again. I'm still like, okay, this is fine. At this point, you know, some alarm bells are going off. I think a second Swords Dance, I mean, maybe my opponent could assume I'm Scarf at that point because I went for knockoff, but there are reasons to go for knockoff there that I've enumerated. I don't think my opponent had any way of knowing I was Scarf before the second Swords Dance, this last turn. I think after the match, Shoen said that he assumed that I was Scarf, which is fair. I mean, I assumed that he wasn't this set that he ends up being, which I think that's a more fair assumption than assuming I'm Scarf. I think assuming I'm Scarf on Zeraora it's much less likely, based on the information that's been shared, that I'm Scarf Zeraora. Then I guess Scarf Zeraora makes more sense than this set, so I don't feel too bad about not predicting this set. But regardless, I go into Serena to sack it. Unfortunately, I die to rocks. Like, I don't die to rocks, which would have been really nice, because then I would have been fine. So I switch to Serena, he gets another Swords Dance up, he Smart Strikes. Cool, whatever, he gets a kill. Attack, oh no. Speed Boost. Timid Kartana. So, Timid Kartana, I guess it's good in draft. I don't know. I have very, very mixed feelings on this. It worked here, but I can't imagine a scenario against my team where Timid Kartana seemed like a good idea. So I didn't prep for it. Like, I forgot it was even a set, to be honest. So Timid Kartana, you have to run, what is it, like 0? You have to run like 0 EV, like 0 EVs, like Timid, obviously, so hindering nature. And like you can't even run 31 IVs, if I'm remembering right. So you basically are completely neutering Kartana. You're making it essentially so that its relevant attack stat is lower than Gyarados, which is 112. Okay. It worked. So yeah, it worked. I felt like you'd want damage output for Suicune. I felt like you'd want damage output for Lottie. I felt like you'd want damage output for a ton of things on my team, but it worked. So at this point, since I'm Scarf, Zeraora, I know I outspeed. I guess my opponent also assumed that I wasn't mixed Zeraora. The Volt Switch probably gave away a little information there. I'm no special attack investment. I don't need special attack investment to kill Kartana with a hidden Power Fire. I guess it was just a risk they took. I don't know. I disagree with this set, but then it dunks on me, so I kind of have to just have to hold that L, I guess. Close combat is a roll from here on no HP, but if you're running no attack EVs, you can afford to invest in defense. So it lives the close combat, and then it picks up a kill here with pretty much anything that it wants to go for. Maybe I survive Smart Strike, but I doubt it. So now he's +2. Obviously outspeeds my whole team. I go to Magearna here. So because of the defense investment, I actually do live a Smart Strike from +6, +4 Kartana. But partly because it's Timid Kartana and is a weird set. So I know I survive. I knew that going into the Zeraora switch, so I could have gone either order. Fleur Cannon, I don't believe killed, or it was a roll. And I didn't want to risk the roll, because we get some speed boost, it's faster than Zeraora at that point, and then I do just get swept, so I went to Zeraora first to get the damage off, and then I went to Magearna after to kind of finish it off, because at this point Thunderbolt killed, and I didn't need to risk, missing Fleur Cannon or, putting myself in bad position afterwards. So from here, I survived the Smart Strike, I get my Eopapa Berry, so the defense investment, the Eopapa Berry, that worked. It was designed for Hawlucha, but it works against Kartana, so that was good to see. Kill with Thunderbolt. And now I'm in what I think is pretty much, this is kind of game over-ish territory in my mind. I don't really have a win condition right now, to be honest. I'm +1, I'm in against Jirachi. I don't like the Iron Head flinch, the para hacks at all in this scenario. I'm +1, which is good, but it doesn't seem like I win this, and if Magearna goes down, I lose. So I gotta get rid of Jirachi before I can do anything. Maybe once Jirachi's dead, I can do something, but this isn't the time. So I pivot out into Lottie, and we end up back in this kind of cycle here. They reveal the Body Slam, so okay, para is a chance. So at this point, we're kind of in that same frozen cycle. I think maybe a speed check there on the Iron Head, damage check, just trying to figure out my set. We're going to go back and forth in this for quite a while. I don't have a good way of breaking Jirachi. I really don't want Jirachi to wish past to Rotom. If Rotom gets back up healthy, I have a really hard time breaking, the defensive core that didn't exist that I was talking about in Team Builder is suddenly formidable between Jirachi and Rotom because I've lost, Zera, Conk, Serena, the kind of things that should have easily been able to deal with it. So at this point, we kind of go back in that kind of same cycle. I'm healing a little bit. I think at this point I recognize that, okay, I do have a win condition here, and it's paralyzing Jirachi. So I just start firing off Thunderbolts. I get it on the first one, which is lucky, I guess. It was bound to happen based on, the cycle continuing, and Thunderbolt kind of prevented Greninja from switching in. Lottie could switch in, but it was, in all probability a speed tie, and I had Dragon Pulse to kill Lottie at its lowered HP value. So I think we were both kind of stuck here. Jirachi could have just sat there wishing, trying to get it to Rotom, but I was pretty much always going to Dragon Pulse on that wish. So maybe Schoen could have played this a little bit better to avoid the para, because I really do think that was my only win con, and then I basically started going for it. I still haven't revealed HP Fire either. Would have been nice to reveal it on Kartana. That's fine. So I do get the para. The para means I have a win con. It means Magearna could potentially set up on this, depending on if I'm lucky or not. Also means that Ho-Oh is faster than Jirachi, so a lot of good things come from that. So this cycle continues for a while. I'm trying to keep my health at full so I survive anything from Greninja. It's pretty much why I'm recovering. I reveal Hidden Power Fire here to start getting some damage. It does nothing, so this, I think it revealed pretty early on this was a very specially defensive Jirachi, which makes it even harder for Magearna to break. So the wish comes out here. I Dragon Pulse to prevent Rotom getting the wish. He's chipping me down, forcing me to use my recovers. I'm forcing him to use his wishes. It's kind of stagnant right here, so there's not a lot that either one of us can do. And so I'm getting all these paras, and Schoen's right. Like, Schoen's right that the paras suck here, but they don't matter. Like, they don't matter at all, because I don't have enough damage output with HP Fire, and really it's just causing me to waste PP. So I need a para to happen on specific turns, not in general. So anything that happens here while we're in this interaction is probably, you know, good for him overall. Not getting a little damage off on Latias isn't the end of the world, I don't think. So I comment here on the timid cart. No, I was frustrated with that. But we go back and forth. I get another para. It doesn't matter. So I need like two. If I get two paras here, maybe it matters. But you know, the ones that start mattering, I stop getting the paras. No crits either. So eventually they switch out into Greninja on a recover. Good timing for Schoen. I wasn't gonna Thunderbolt there, I don't think, under any circumstance. But I recover up and I'm healthy enough to survive whatever from Greninja at this point. So U-turn and I just recover again. So at this point I think Schoen recognizes that he can basically switch infinitely between the two. And because of that, I want to avoid that scenario. So that scenario is really bad for me. So this is the turn that I just decided to make the move. Getting in Ho-Oh here, I can force Jirachi out, and I can do a decent amount of damage to anything that comes in, potentially burn. I can Roost to, you know, stay at a high enough percentage to, you know, have another Rock switch in. There's a lot of things I can do. Rotom is no threat, depending on its set, I suppose. If it had Will-O-Wisp and T-Wave or Will-O-Wisp and Toxic, it could be a threat. But even like Hydro Pump isn't gonna do basically anything to Ho-Oh because of its special defense and HP. So I take this opportunity to bring in Ho-Oh to force Jirachi out. It would have been nice to do this when it was at a lower HP value. It's pretty high right now. As part of my thinking is that I wanted to get in Ho-Oh on a turn that my opponent would either Iron Head or do something else. It's probably a little aggressive. I should have been more patient. But I switch Ho-Oh in, and this is kind of the first thing that really doesn't go my way. The Body Slam, through para, instant para. So Jirachi has Serene Grace, obviously. The odds of Body Slam paralyzing through paralysis with Serene Grace is slightly in my favor. I think it's like a 60-40, maybe slightly off that, but it's basically that. So it's like inverse Serene Grace odds that I get paralyzed here. You know, there's a good chance that I take no damage at all. So I bring in Ho-Oh, get paralyzed. Not great. I do know that I outspeed Jirachi. I think I do, right? Yeah, I outspeed Jirachi. Jirachi was like max HP, max special defense. I know he's not going to keep Jirachi in. There's no reason for him to keep Jirachi in. So I go ahead and Roost. Thunderbolt does basically nothing. So it's possible I could have Roosted here to maybe get out of range of some of my opponent's attacks. I don't remember the exact roll offhand. But I just decided at this point, I'm going to pick up a kill and try and just keep differential in hand. Latias is super expendable for my opponent, but I don't like the odds of me roosting through para to get at a high enough HP that I can take a hit from Greninja or Rotom or something like that. So I just go ahead and fire off the Brave Bird, pick up the kill. I'm happy I at least got a kill. Broke through paralysis both times. Greninja comes out. I think I was comfortably in range of this. I think it does over 50, so that's fine. So here I go into Magearna. So this is basically like my last gasp. I need to set up with Magearna. This seemed like a decent enough time. Magearna really didn't do a lot after a Calm Mind. I think it was like a 3-hit KO. It was basically what it would be after all my Calm Minds and my bulk. So I come in, I go ahead and just start Calm Minding up. +1/+1 here. So this interaction was kind of weird. I wish I had like unlimited time to think about it, which I guess in theory I did, but I don't think anybody wants to sit there and chart out everything. Based on his set, I think I needed to get to +2 to 3-hit KO. It might have been +3. We'll see the damage roll here in a second. So I go ahead and go for another Calm Mind. He says good game. I don't know, does he assume he loses? You'll have to let me know, Sean, what you were thinking there. Maybe you had like Z. No, you already revealed Z. Maybe you had Dig or something on Greninja or something crazy. I mean, this was a weird GG to me. So at this point, Greninja doesn't do that much damage to me at +2 special defense. So I'm going to start trying to get damage off here. I survived one para. Yeah, there's the 3-hit KO, but not with leftovers. So probably should have gotten to +3/+3. The second one hits and picks up the para. So 2 of them in a row. Like I said, if it's a 40-60 thing, that is what? That it doesn't happen. It's 0.6 times 0.6. It's like 35% that it doesn't para me at all through either one of those interactions. So eventually it's kind of the reverse, but more in Shoen's favor. Eventually I'm going to get parried. So I get parried here. I can outspeed if I shift gear, but it doesn't help me against anything else. So I just basically keep firing off Thunderbolts. I need full paras. I need 1 full para. I don't get any, unfortunately. I think if I get 1, I actually do survive attacks from Greninja. But I don't outspeed, so it's kind of borderline what would have happened. But I really did need 1 para. Maybe a second one, depending on what I did. I really should have gotten the +3/+3 is what it boils down to. So I get para and then I get flinch there. So the flinch prevents me from being able to kill Jirachi at all. So the para flinch, you know, like the non-para on Jirachi into the flinch on me, it prevents me from getting another kill, basically. I'm pretty sure if I don't get flinched there, Jirachi's low enough that I can bring in Lottie and I can just Thunderbolt through Gyarachi, and then any switch in is going to take damage. Maybe Rotom has it has leftovers, so I think Rotom dies too. It would have been, I probably get another kill, but that's really only differential at that point. I'm too low at this point to take anything from Greninja, which is another reason +3/+3 would have been a good idea. So that pretty much seals it. Full para there maybe prevents me from killing Rotom. I don't think it really matters. Thinking back to it a little bit more. So he kills me with Hydro Pump. Hydro Pump, I guess, was risky. If he missed, maybe I kill Rotom, which, you know, would have been something. Then from here, I bring in Latias, hoping that he chokes and lets me pick up a kill on one of his Pokemon, but he can just stall me out at this point, so we just go to the end of the battle. Yeah, I don't ever get enough pairs in a row, and I'll end up dying. So it was a great game. Good game into BigSchoen. He recognized he needed to preserve Jirachi really well to deal with Magearna. He identified Scarf Zera before it was revealed. I think based on some of our Yeah, so he was sure I was Scarfzera. It wasn't. I mean, it technically until the close combat on Kartana was never revealed. So great prediction on his part. Yeah, so I think he made the right plays to win the game, and I think I made some plays to win turns, and I think that's again another place that I'm still struggling a little bit with some of the draft format here. I liked my team this week, my team build. More removal would have been nice, but I didn't want to bring Crobat. I thought Serena had a good matchup. So a tough loss. Fall to 1 and 2 on the season. We're now at -4 differential, which isn't great. You know, if you figure that means on average I'm losing 2, you could have a 6-0 and then, you know, lose the other 2 5-0, or however you want to do the math. So yeah, tough loss. Looking forward to the next week. Kind of got to bounce back. A lot of new faces. I feel like a lot of the transactions people made in the league do really well against my team, which kind of sucks. So it'll be interesting. Yeah, well, that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching. See you guys next week.